So here's the Lotus quadcopter as I've configured it for the test flights, and you'll see that it's decked out with its normal regalia. I'm running it in the standard configuration, so we've got the orange prop at the front, and then we've got the 3 black props. Underneath we have 2200 milliamp LiPo, and here's my little high definition key fob camera velcroed on the bottom. Not a lot really to see. Antenna hanging down here for the 2.4 FreeSky system, and there it is. Now, one thing I did notice when I was just testing this out before was that one of the motors fell apart. The shaft and propeller became detached from the actual little motor bell down here, and that's because these things have a little grub screw. If I can get it on the video here, try and go around the front. There's a little grub screw. You see the grub screw there? Now that locks the shaft in the bottom of the bell. The one that flew out, the grub screw was actually loose. So I thought, well, I'll check the others. And the others were okay, except for one that had no grub screw at all. So despite the little form with all the ticks in it, it pays you to go over and check that the quality control really has been done. Because that one, I had to find a grub screw from the workshop and put it in. Also, I noticed that these grub screws are typical Chinese. They're very soft. When I was tightening the one that was loose, I actually rounded out the hole in the thing. I had to replace it with another quality grub screw, which I could tighten. And so there you go. Just pay to check those on your tricopter. Also, what I've done here is we have the propeller which screws onto the shaft, threaded shaft, a little white plastic spacer down there. You can't tighten this down onto the spacer too much. That's just there to hold the bearing in the motor, so you can't wind this up. You've just got to, until it just makes contact, no more, and then you're supposed to screw this plastic cap on the top. But the plastic cap, not very solid, so what I've done is I've put a little 4mm lock nut, steel lock nut on there, and tightened it up, not too tight, because apparently you can break the shaft. So I put a little bit of removable Loctite in here just to hold the nut in place. Then I put the plastic cap on the top, and that seems to be working very well. The props haven't come undone. There's been no issues. The only issue was the little grub screw in the bottom not being up tight, and the whole propeller and shaft coming flying out, which is quite exciting really. Fortunately, I had just touched down at the time, so it didn't cause the craft to flip. So that's how it's set up, and I'm going to do some video with my key fob camera on my hat cam so you can see it hovering, and I'll put, as you can see, I've got the key fob on the copter as well, so you can see what it looks like from an FPV perspective. Now what I'm going to be doing soon, of course, is putting a full FPV system on here with the camera and the video transmitter, and then we'll get into doing some exciting stuff. But so far it seems very stable, flies very nicely, very easy to fly. If you've flown one of the coaxial helicopters, then that's exactly what this flies like. It's very, very soft in the controls. You have to push the sticks over quite hard to get it to do anything. And the only thing I've noticed is that the altitude, it's got a lot of lag in the altitude. If it starts to sink, you've really got to pour the power on quite a bit to arrest that sink. So something that can catch you out. You can end up with a few hard landings if you're not too careful. But okay, let's see what we can see when I put the thing in the air. Okay, we turn on the transmitter, throttle at minimum, and we plug in the battery. We wait for all the pre-required amount of beeps. Here we go. Just leave it untouched until it's finished its beeping sequence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that means the gyros have all initialized. It should be all ready to go. Now what we do is we just crack the throttle just to get the props spinning. It'll beep. There we go. Props are spinning. Now we're ready to take off. Let's see what we can do with this thing. There it is, sitting in a hover. I'm just jiggling the throttle to keep it constant, because I know that if we let it go into altitude hold, it tends to sort of rise up for some reason here. I don't know why. I'm going to make a few mods for the altitude hold, see if I can make it so that it's a little more stable in altitude hold. So in the meantime, a little bit of wind around at the moment, it's blowing it around a little bit. And when it comes down, you've got to pour the power on. But that's it. I mean, as I say, if you've flown a coaxial helicopter, you can fly one of these. Except when that altitude hold kicks in and she pops up. I haven't done any major forward flight yet. You can see it does have a bit of rocking as it's flying, but that's not too bad. It's a little bit lumpy, a little bit of a drift coming through with a few bumps in it here, so I'm not too worried about that bumping around, but it does get a bit rickety-rockety. And there we go, simple as. Next video I'll show you the altitude hold, and we'll be a bit more adventurous with the sticks instead of just flying it around. Now see if I can land it. One thing I've noticed, if you land it a little bit rough, the gyros may kick in and it may cause it to bounce back into the air, which is not a good thing. But I'll try and do a decent landing for you here today. There we go. That was the best landing I've done for a while. So that's it. That's the Lotus 580 quadcopter. First flight, first impressions. Now we'll get serious and we'll see what else we can find about this wonderful and extremely interesting flying device.